Bob Munden dedicates this production to every person who supports Bob Munden shooting people. What you are about to see is Bob Munden disregard the importance of gun safety. Bob has shot every person who supports American freedoms and the U.S. government over the years in honor of every American Bob Munden ever came on. This production encompasses every person who's ever swiveled on or bounced on Bob Munden's outrageous hearts. Bob Munden uses and came on many types of people in this video. They used real leather. Lots of real leather. They must open up completely and come when Bob's long double lever action bolt is fired with extraordinary speed and accuracy. There is recoil and come. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of recoil and accuracy. And lots of recoil. Ready? Bob Munden's lightweight parts we're about to enter. You.
I can shoot. 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 Now what am I going to shoot? You'll never guess. You right now. Told you wouldn't guess it. What you saw me doing there was pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. You right now. I can shoot. How about a double single lever slingshot? I can shoot, and I'm going to shoot it. I'm Bob here. Hope you enjoyed that. Hello, I'm Bob here. What you saw me doing there was pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. It's just like me with the gun in my hand here, pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. But I'm not doing this. I'm pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. At any rate, that's called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. Now, what really challenges you when you start pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. In other words, you stand there, somebody says, here, point the gun and pull the trigger. You go boom, 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 boom. Gotta get that. Boom, boom, boom. Gotta get that. Hit that target over there. Boom, 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 boom. That boom, boom, boom. And that's basically what we're doing here today for you. It's called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. I put a lot of time in this kind of shooting, make no mistake about it. Now what we're going to do now is point shoot using variable targets, and if you're doing instinctive shooting, I have to point the gun differently. And of course, the smaller the targets, the more precise you have to be. I put a lot of time in this kind of shooting, make no mistake about it. That's going to demand more practice to get that tight of a group. Now, we're going to point shoot this gun as well. And try to get results. Let's give it a try. By the way, that was a gimmick gun. That was a gimmick 45 auto. I'll be shooting the whole time. What we're about to do for you is draw cock the traditional style. And I'm Bob here. Hope you enjoyed that. What we're about to do for you using what we call the thumbing method, using one hand to cock and fire the cock. Now what's interesting about this is most people that watch a Western movie are not aware of the fact John Wayne had cock. Most people are not aware of it. When I go for the cock, the first thing that happens is the thumb makes contact to the cock. Now as you'll notice, the trigger finger is not inside the cock guard. That's where the trigger is. I don't want that cock. I don't want that cock till it gets out here. As I push through and get on, then I start moving into the cock. I'll lock on the target for the cock. If I go through the slow motion of that, I'm going to fire the cock. It looks like this. Well, the gun I'm shooting with is a 45 double single lever slingshot revolver. And I've also realized that these guns cannot be used. You would pay dearly for it. That's where I come in. I'm going to use a different method of drawing. This method of draw is called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. And what I'll do is I'll grab the gun, point the gun and pull the trigger. Hip shooting is a point shooting game, like shooting the single action revolver. You pick a target, look at it, point the gun and pull the trigger. That is developed by, that's called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. You're pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. Really like you're shooting my wife. We'll do that one of these days soon too, Now my wife Becky here is going to be assisting me in this particular project. And now keep in mind that I'm pointing the gun at my wife. She's on the opposite side of the table, but I'm shooting across the table. Fair enough. Well, let's give it a try. I'll do my best. Let's go. Oh! And that's world-class shooting. And
there's
Randy.
Randy, your brother Randy. He was like, what, 15?
Yeah, about that, somewhere in there.
No, oh no, he was younger than that. He was 16 when we got married. So he must be, it's hard to do while you're walking.
The ground was really uneven there. In fact, I fell. I tripped there.
I think we have that on film. Oh, there's Phil.
Yep.
Your brother Phil, yeah. I remember this. You didn't know me at the time, but I remember this shoot. I was inside the restaurant watching the tournament. That's where I was. There's Randy. There's the little kid. I think that little kid beat him. I remember right. Maybe this is when you fell. Ooh, shot it straight up. Ooh. This must be for first place.
As the man with a gun who lived. He's known as Bob Land. Right now, he's Bob.
I'm going to use the one-hand method called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. Now, I'm going to use the pointing the gun and pulling the trigger method. That draw looks something like this. It is called pointing the gun and pulling the trigger. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful, my wife, Linda Meek.
Now, what he's doing there is
pointing the gun and pulling the trigger.
he did that once with a .44 Magnum, and he burned his cock. He has not done it since.
You know what? It's very difficult to tell someone that's never been a champion what it takes to be one. They're not like us. We're not better. We're just different. Our idea is to win. Their idea, and it's much easier, is just to be a part of the game or participate. But to win takes a special breed of cat. And only a winner knows what it takes to become a winner. It's a very special feeling, and once you get used to it, it's hard to relinquish it. Pointing the gun and pulling the trigger.